Do not sleep tonight. Not because something terrible is coming, but because something has already begun. There are nights when Allah does not warn loudly. He adjusts reality quietly. By morning, the world will look the same, but the direction of your life may not be. Ibn Arabi taught that when a shift is close, the soul feels it before the mind understands it. That is why restlessness appears without reason. That is why silence feels heavy. That is why sleep suddenly feels like escape. This is not fear. This is preparation. Most people will sleep through this moment, not in their beds, but in their awareness. They will wake up confused, asking what changed. But those who stayed present will recognize it immediately. So do not sleep tonight. Do not disappear into distraction. Do not rush past the stillness. Because some nights are not meant to pass. They are meant to prepare you for what you will awaken into. Listen carefully. Ibn ʿArabi did not measure wakefulness by open eyes or long nights. He measured it by where the heart resides when nothing is happening. A person may lie down and sleep, yet their heart remains present with Allah. Another may stay awake the entire night, restless and alert, yet remain deeply asleep inside. This is because true wakefulness has nothing to do with the body. It is a state of attention. Ibn ʿArabi taught that the greatest danger to the soul is not sleep, but ghafla, heedlessness. Heedlessness is when time passes, signs appear, doors shift, and the heart remains untouched. It is the condition of moving through life mechanically, praying without presence, listening without hearing, existing without witnessing. When Allah calls a servant to wakefulness, He does not always remove sleep. He removes distraction. Suddenly, ordinary moments feel charged. Silence feels heavy. The night feels different, not dramatic, but alert. This is the state Ibn Arabi described as being awake while the world sleeps. In this state, the servant is not chasing visions or signs. They are simply present enough to recognize what is already unfolding. Most people believe wakefulness means effort, more worship, more words, more movement. But Ibn Arabi taught the opposite. Wakefulness often begins when noise falls away. You stop trying to force meaning. You stop demanding clarity. You stop running ahead of destiny. And in that stillness, the heart becomes a receiver. This is why some people miss divine shifts entirely. Not because Allah hid them, but because they were present everywhere except here. They were busy interpreting, planning, worrying, remembering, anticipating anything but witnessing the moment they were actually in. Wakefulness is not excitement. It is sobriety. It is the quiet recognition that something is moving beneath the surface, and that movement does not need your interference, only your awareness. Ibn Arabi warned that when heedlessness dominates, even miracles can pass unnoticed. A person can be answered by Allah and still feel ignored, simply because their heart was elsewhere when the response arrived. That is why this lesson matters tonight. The instruction is not, do not sleep. The instruction is, do not disappear from yourself. Remain present long enough for your heart to feel what words cannot explain. Remain still enough for recognition to happen naturally. Because when the heart is awake, even sleep becomes worship. And when the heart is absent, even wakefulness becomes loss. This is the difference Ibn Arabi wanted the seeker to understand. Wakefulness is not staying up. Wakefulness is being here when it matters. One of the most unsettling truths Ibn Arabi taught is this. Not every night is meant to show you something. Some nights are meant to decide something. Most people wait for events. They look for signs they can point to, stories they can tell, moments they can dramatize. But Ibn Arabi warned that Allah does not always move through spectacle. Sometimes Allah moves through settlement. Nothing shakes, nothing breaks, nothing announces itself. You sleep, you wake. Life looks the same, yet a decision has already been placed into reality. A door that was open yesterday no longer opens the same way. A path that felt natural now feels resistant. A delay suddenly feels complete rather than frustrating. People call this coincidence. Ibn Arabi called it a decree that arrived quietly. These nights are dangerous for the heedless because they feel ordinary, and they are precious for the aware because they reshape the future without noise. This is why the people of insight never treat nights casually. They do not assume tomorrow will simply be a continuation of today. They understand that Allah sometimes chooses the night to finalize what the day has been circling around for years. You may think nothing is happening because nothing emotional is happening. But emotions are not the measure of destiny. Destiny often moves when the heart is calm, not excited. Ibn ʿArabi taught that when Allah wants to finalize a matter, He often removes drama, because drama invites ego, and ego interferes with acceptance. So Allah settles things gently, in a way that only recognition, not reaction, can catch. This is why some people wake up and feel strangely done with something they were once attached to. Not angry, not sad, just complete. The night did that. A decision was placed where resistance could not argue. This lesson matters because many people waste these nights by demanding signs instead of offering presence. They keep asking, "What is happening?" when the real question should be, "What has already been decided?" Ibn ʿArabi taught that when a decision has descended, arguing with it only creates suffering. Recognition creates peace. If tonight feels quiet but heavy, if it feels uneventful yet significant, do not rush to label it as nothing. Some nights do not bring news. They finalize directions. And by morning, the world does not need to change for your path to have already shifted. Those who were present will move smoothly. Those who were absent will feel like life changed suddenly. But nothing was sudden. It was decided in silence. One of the most difficult teachings of Ibn ʿArabi is this truth. Allah prepares you long before He explains anything to you. Most people believe understanding should come first. They want clarity before surrender, certainty before trust, answers before movement. But Ibn ʿArabi taught the opposite order. First comes preparation, then comes confusion. Only later, sometimes much later, comes understanding. This is why many seekers feel unsettled during certain nights. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is broken. Yet the heart feels alert, uneasy, unusually sensitive. This unease is not anxiety. It is rearrangement. Allah is shifting internal structures that can no longer carry what is coming next. The soul senses this before the mind can explain it. That is why Ibn ʿArabi warned seekers not to panic when clarity disappears. Loss of clarity does not mean loss of guidance. It often means guidance has gone deeper than language. Tonight, preparation may look like restlessness. It may feel like silence that does not comfort you. It may feel like questions rising without answers, but these are not signs of abandonment. They are signs that something old is being loosened, so something truer can arrive. Ibn ʿArabi explained that Allah does not burden the heart with awareness until it has been strengthened quietly. This strengthening is subtle. It happens when you are not being tested outwardly. It happens when nothing dramatic is occurring. It happens when you are simply present enough to feel what is shifting inside you. This is why understanding often comes after obedience, not before it. You do not understand why a door closed until months later. You do not understand why a delay saved you until the danger passes. You do not understand why restlessness protected you until clarity arrives. Preparation protects you from being crushed by what understanding will eventually reveal. Ibn ʿArabi taught that sudden clarity without preparation can destroy a person. So Allah is merciful. He prepares quietly. This preparation does not announce itself with excitement. It feels heavy. It feels serious. It feels like something you cannot escape, but also cannot explain. That is the sign you are being aligned, not punished. If tonight feels like that, do not rush to distract yourself. Do not numb the sensation. Do not demand explanations. Stay with the moment. Preparation does not need interpretation. It needs presence. By morning, you may not know exactly what changed, but you will be able to carry what comes next without breaking. And that is the greatest mercy, because Ibn ʿArabi taught this final truth. Allah never reveals what you are not yet strong enough to hold. So if clarity is delayed, it is not denial, it is protection. And if preparation is happening silently, it is because what comes next requires a heart that has already been readied, even if the mind is still catching up. One of the most unsettling observations Ibn ʿArabi made about the human soul is this: when real change approaches, the soul does not prepare, it resists, not always with rebellion, often with sleep. Not physical sleep alone, but a deeper form of retreat, distraction, numbness, excess comfort, anything that dulls awareness. The soul senses transformation before the intellect does. It feels when an old identity is about to collapse, when a familiar attachment is about to loosen, when a chapter is nearing its end. And because transformation threatens what the ego depends on, the soul looks for anesthesia. This is why, on the edge of major spiritual shifts, people suddenly feel an urge to escape inward attention. They feel unusually tired without having worked. They feel the need to switch off. They crave noise, entertainment, scrolling, sleep, anything that keeps them from sitting still with themselves. Ibn Arabi did not interpret this as weakness. He interpreted it as fear without language. The soul is not afraid of pain. It is afraid of losing familiarity. Change does not always come violently. Often it comes quietly, asking you to release what you have unknowingly been leaning on. And release is more threatening than loss, because loss is forced, but release is chosen. So the soul tries to sleep through the moment of choice. Ibn Arabi taught that heedlessness intensifies right before breakthroughs, not because Allah withdraws, but because the ego senses it is about to lose control. When control weakens, the ego seeks darkness. It seeks unconsciousness. This is why prophets were commanded to stand in the night. This is why saints guarded certain nights carefully. This is why seekers were warned not to surrender awareness when comfort suddenly becomes tempting. Sleep, in this context, is not rest. It is avoidance. Avoidance of listening. Avoidance of recognition. Avoidance of the quiet inner knowing that says, something must change. Many people miss turning points not because they were unworthy, but because they were unconscious when the moment arrived. They slept not in bed, but in awareness. They delayed listening until the inner signal faded, and then wondered why life later felt heavy, misaligned, or resistant. Ibn Arabi explained that when Allah wants to move a servant forward, He often removes urgency and replaces it with stillness. That stillness is an invitation, not an absence, but only the awake recognize it. Those who remain present notice subtle signals, a loss of interest in what once excited them, a heaviness around conversations that once felt easy, a pull towards solitude without sadness, a seriousness entering the heart without explanation. These are not signs of depression. They are signs of transition. The danger is mistaking transition for exhaustion and trying to sleep it away, because once the moment passes, the opportunity does not always repeat in the same form. Allah is generous, but timing is precise. Some invitations come softly once, and then return later as difficulty if ignored. Ibn Arabi warned that resisting gentle change invites harsher correction, not as punishment, but as mercy delayed. When the soul refuses to move voluntarily, circumstances move it forcibly. This is why wakefulness matters now. Not frantic activity, not obsessive thinking, just presence. To feel what is shifting without demanding to control it. To stay conscious long enough for alignment to complete itself. Staying awake here does not mean depriving the body. It means refusing to abandon awareness. It means noticing when comfort becomes avoidance, when sleep becomes escape, when distraction becomes defense, because the soul knows when something decisive is near, and it will either rise to meet it or hide until the moment passes. Ibn Arabi's warning is quiet but sharp. Do not let the soul sleep through what the heart was meant to recognize. Remain present, not tense, not fearful, but honest. Because the night that tempts you to disappear inwardly is often the night that determines what you awaken into. One of the most sobering teachings of Ibn Arabi is that morning does not reward effort. It exposes readiness. People often believe that when something changes suddenly, it is luck. They say, it happened out of nowhere. They say, I didn't see it coming. They say, why them and not me? But Ibn Arabi rejected this way of thinking completely. Nothing meaningful arrives randomly. What feels sudden is usually what you were unprepared to notice while it was forming. Morning does not create outcomes. Morning reveals what the night already finalized. This is why two people can wake up into the same day and experience entirely different realities. The world is unchanged, yet one feels aligned, steady, and strangely at peace while the other feels shocked, destabilized, or betrayed by events. The difference is not intelligence. It is not effort. It is not even righteousness alone. The difference is inner preparation. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah does not surprise the prepared heart. Destiny only shocks the one who was absent when alignment was happening. The prepared heart recognizes the shift immediately, not because it predicted it, but because it was already oriented correctly. This is why the people of insight treat mornings with seriousness. They do not rush into the day, assuming continuity. They understand that something may have already been sealed while they were asleep, or while they were awake but distracted. Many people mistakenly believe preparation means action. They think it means planning, fixing, controlling, anticipating. Ibn ʿArabi taught that preparation is quieter than all of that. Preparation is the condition of the heart when it is not clinging. A prepared heart is not attached to outcomes. It is not bargaining with Allah. It is not rehearsing future scenarios. It is available. Availability is rare. Most people are busy defending yesterday. They wake up holding the same expectations, the same self-image, the same assumptions about how life should continue. So when something shifts, they experience it as loss, even if it is guidance. The prepared heart wakes up without insisting that yesterday must repeat itself. This is why Ibn ʿArabi said that destiny does not oppose the servant, it opposes their attachments. When attachments are strong, change feels violent. When attachments are light, change feels natural. Morning reveals this immediately. Some wake up feeling clarity without explanation. Others wake up feeling resistance without understanding why. That resistance is not caused by the event. It is caused by misalignment that was ignored earlier. Ibn ʿArabi warned that when preparation is avoided, destiny arrives as shock. But when preparation is accepted, destiny arrives as confirmation. This is a frightening and comforting truth. It means you do not need to control tomorrow, but it also means you cannot escape inner responsibility. You are not punished by what happens. You are shaped by how ready you were when it arrived. Many people confuse readiness with confidence. They think those who move smoothly must have known more. In reality, the prepared often knew less, but were less resistant. They did not demand certainty. They did not demand reassurance. They did not demand timing. They simply stayed present long enough for the inner posture to adjust. That posture determines everything. Ibn ʿArabi taught that Allah often grants ease, not by changing circumstances, but by changing how the heart meets them. The event may be the same, but the experience is entirely different. This is why some people say, "I don't know why, but I'm okay with this." And others say, "I don't understand how this happened to me." The difference is not fairness. It is preparedness. Morning is merciless in this way. It does not wait for explanations. It does not negotiate with expectations. It simply arrives and shows you the state of your inner alignment. If you wake up grounded, it means something in you was already settled. If you wake up shaken, it means something in you was still resisting release. Neither is a judgment. Both are information. Ibn ʿArabi taught that the wise do not fear mornings. They respect nights, because nights are where readiness is shaped, not through anxiety, not through effort, but through presence. If you were present enough to loosen your grip, present enough to listen without demanding answers, present enough to remain awake internally, then morning does not surprise you. It confirms you. And if morning feels heavy, disorienting, or harsh, Ibn ʿArabi would not tell you to panic. He would tell you to recognize that something was trying to prepare you earlier, and now preparation must continue under pressure. Either way, the teaching remains. Morning never asks whether you are ready. It only reveals whether you were. And the heart that learns this stops fearing change because it understands that destiny does not arrive suddenly. It arrives exactly when preparation is complete, even if the mind realizes it too late. Among the most misunderstood teachings of Ibn ʿArabi is his insistence that silence is not the absence of guidance, it is one of its highest forms. Most people panic when answers stop coming. They assume Allah has gone quiet because they have done something wrong. They search harder, ask louder, demand clarity faster. But Ibn ʿArabi taught that when silence arrives, it is often because words would now do harm. There are stages of the path where language guides, and there are stages where language interferes. Silence comes when the heart is being taught something that cannot survive explanation. This is deeply uncomfortable for the ego. The ego wants reassurance. It wants timelines. It wants definitions it can memorize and repeat. Silence refuses all of that. Silence asks for trust without commentary. Ibn ʿArabi explained that Allah speaks to different people in different modes. For some, guidance comes as instruction. For others, as signs. But for the intimate servant, guidance often comes as stillness that carries meaning without words. This is why certain nights feel heavy, yet calm. Why prayer feels sincere, but quiet. Why the heart feels watched, but not spoken to. Nothing is being withheld. Something is being protected. Words create interpretation. Interpretation creates interference. Interference delays alignment, so Allah removes speech. In silence, the heart begins to adjust itself naturally, without being told what to do, without being forced into conclusions. Ibn ʿArabi warned that those who rush to fill silence with noise often miss the entire instruction. They assume something is missing and rush to replace it with effort, distraction, or external advice. But silence is not empty. It is precision. It allows the heart to receive without distortion. Think carefully. The most life-altering moments are rarely loud. They arrive quietly, almost respectfully. A realization that ends a long attachment. A calm decision to stop pursuing something that once consumed you. A sudden lack of desire for what once defined you. No announcement, no explanation, just an inner settling. This is silence at work. Ibn ʿArabi taught that Allah often finishes what he began in silence. The beginning may have been emotional, confusing, even painful, but the completion comes quietly, without resistance. Silence means the struggle phase has ended. Now, alignment is happening. The danger is misreading silence as abandonment. This mistake causes people to panic, just as ease is being installed. They start forcing outcomes, making vows, demanding signs, asking for confirmation, pulling themselves out of the very stillness that was completing the work. Ibn ʿArabi described this as interrupting divine surgery. The heart was open, the work was underway, and the servant moved. Silence requires restraint, not inactivity but non-interference, to remain present without demanding movement, to trust that nothing needs to be added, to resist the urge to fill space with meaning, because meaning is forming beneath awareness. This lesson is difficult because silence feels like loss of control, and control is the ego's final attachment. When silence arrives, it means the ego's role is finished for now. The heart must learn directly. This is why Ibn ʿArabi emphasized adab's spiritual etiquette during silent phases. Adab is knowing when not to act. Not every moment asks for response. Some moments ask for stillness. If tonight feels unusually quiet, resist the temptation to label it. Do not rush to name it peace or confusion or delay. Just stay. Silence is not asking you to understand. It is asking you not to interfere. And this is terrifying for the ego, because it cannot take credit for what is happening, but it is liberating for the soul, because what is being shaped in silence cannot be taken away by argument, doubt, or fear. Ibn ʿArabi taught that when Allah speaks through silence, the result is permanence. Words fade, silence settles. By morning, you may not be able to explain what changed, but you will move differently, respond differently, let go without effort. That is how you know silence taught you something real. So do not fear the quiet. Do not fill it. Do not escape it. Remain present long enough for the instruction to complete itself. Because when Allah chooses silence, it is not because He has nothing to say. It is because what He is doing no longer needs words. One of the final illusions Ibn ʿArabi dismantles on the path is the belief that readiness means foresight. Most people think being ready means predicting what will happen. They want signs they can decode, timelines they can mark, outcomes they can rehearse in advance. But Ibn ʿArabi taught something far more unsettling and far more liberating. Readiness has nothing to do with knowing the future. It has everything to do with how you stand in the present. The unready person asks, "What is coming?" The ready person asks, "Who am I being right now?" This difference determines everything, because destiny does not first test your knowledge. It tests your posture toward uncertainty, your posture toward loss, your posture toward ease, your posture toward Allah when clarity is withheld. Ibn ʿArabi taught that Allah does not overwhelm the servant with what is coming next. He overwhelms the servant with what they are carrying unnecessarily now. When the burden is released, the future becomes lighter without explanation. This is why readiness feels quiet. There is no adrenaline in it, no excitement, no dramatic anticipation. Readiness feels like internal alignment. It feels like being willing to let go without knowing what replaces it. It feels like standing upright without bracing for impact. It feels like trusting that you will respond well even if you do not know to what. This terrifies the ego. The ego wants guarantees. It wants insurance. It wants to know how it will look, feel, be perceived. But Ibn ʿArabi taught that guarantees belong to the unseen, not to the mind. And those who demand guarantees delay themselves indefinitely. The ready heart does not demand reassurance. It knows something subtle. Whatever arrives will meet me as I am. And if I am aligned, it will not break me. This is why readiness often feels like surrender, but it is not passive. It is an active refusal to resist reality before it arrives. The unready rehearse arguments against destiny. The ready refine their inner stance. They ask, am I clinging? Am I defending an identity that no longer fits? Am I demanding continuity when change is already mercy? Ibn ʿArabi taught that Allah does not punish attachment immediately. He allows it to persist until it becomes heavy enough to be released willingly or painful enough to be removed forcibly. Readiness is choosing release early, not because you know what is coming, but because you trust Allah more than your assumptions. This is why truly ready people often look calm before major shifts. Not confident, not arrogant, just grounded. They are not waiting for proof. They are waiting without resistance. When morning comes, they do not say, I expected this. They say nothing. They move. Because readiness expresses itself through response, not commentary. Ibn ʿArabi emphasized that destiny reveals itself only to movement, not speculation. Those who wait to understand before moving remain stuck in analysis. Those who align internally find that the path opens as they step. This is not recklessness. It is trust with discipline. The ready heart is disciplined enough not to interfere, humble enough not to assume, alert enough not to collapse. This is why readiness cannot be faked. You cannot perform it. You cannot speak it into existence. You cannot rush it. It is forged quietly through nights like this. Nights where you do not know what is happening, but you refuse to numb yourself. Nights where you do not receive answers, but you remain present. Nights where the soul is tempted to sleep, distract, escape, but you stay honest. By morning, readiness does not announce itself. It reveals itself through ease. Ease in letting go, ease in responding, ease in accepting what once felt threatening. And if what arrives is difficult, readiness does not remove the difficulty, it removes panic. This is the greatest gift of alignment. Ibn ʿArabi taught that Allah never asks you to be prepared for events. He asks you to be prepared to meet Him within events. And that preparation happens now. Not tomorrow, not when clarity arrives, not when certainty is granted. It happens in how you sit with the unknown, how you treat silence, how you hold your heart when nothing is explained. If you can stand correctly here, without fleeing, without forcing, without demanding, then whatever arrives next will meet you already upright. And that is what readiness truly is. Not knowing what comes next, but being someone who will not collapse when it does. Do not measure this night by what you felt. Measure it by how present you remained. Not every shift announces itself. Some complete themselves quietly, without permission, without explanation. By morning, you may not be able to point to what changed, but you will move differently, respond differently, release what once held you without effort. That is how you know something real happened. Ibn ʿArabi taught that destiny does not shout, it settles. And the heart that stayed awake recognizes what the mind cannot yet explain. So, if this night felt still, do not doubt it. If it felt heavy, do not resist it. If it felt silent, do not fill it. Remain where you are. Remain aware, because whatever you awaken into next will meet you already prepared. And that is not an accident. That is what it means to have been awake when it mattered most.